Nobody saw this coming. The New York Jets are having a situation at practice that is becoming a major storyline for this team in the offseason training. And truly, this has shocked everybody, even though Darren Mougey spoke out on this, saying it was going to happen. And we are going to break down what exactly this is, why Matt is wearing a winter coat in May, and much more. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Jets Digest. It's Chris and Matt here. Yes, I am back, and I know you guys are happy because nobody likes Matt. So let's jump into the video. Look, if you guys are part of that 70% that's not subscribed, I understand why. Matt was making videos without me. I don't understand why anyone would even watch. But in all seriousness, watch the channel, watch every single video, or we'll be sad. And we're on that grind. We're making videos every single day, so you do not want to miss out on all the great New York Jets content. But let's jump into it, Matt. There is a lot to discuss with the New York Jets, as there's a storyline that Darren Mougey actually mentioned in the offseason when the Jets were making moves in the heart of free agency that nobody, I guess, acknowledged. I don't even remember seeing it because I either did and just blew by. It's like, that's not happening. Or it just felt under the radar because nobody saw that something was going to happen here. But Aaron Glenn, there was a key storyline that he said, or a key thing that he had to say about the New York Jets, which was no spot is safe. There aren't starters right now. Anyone can win any position. And we are seeing that very, very much come into play here. It was mentioned by Rich Cimini that when the Jets signed former Packers starting center Josh Myers, it was widely assumed that he'd be the backup to incumbent Joe Tippmann. General Manager Darren Mougey spiced it up when he said in late March that Myers is going to compete to push Tippmann. Now, what we've also seen is Cimini saying, sure enough, that competition is underway. Tippmann and Myers are battling their asses off right now to guard John Simpson said this week. So, Matt, going into the offseason, we weren't thinking about the center position for the New York Jets. Joe Tippmann started last year and did an excellent job. Jets fans loved him. Everyone compares him to Nick Mangold for obvious reasons. And because of that, we just all figured, and I would say rightfully so, well, Tippmann's the starting center next year. We have 4 of the 5 offensive line spots marked down, and there's a lot of talk about the Jets drafting an offensive tackle in the first round. Well, what happened, Matt? We drafted an offensive tackle in the first round. That finished off the offensive line that was mainly built by none other than Joe Douglas, or Joe Douglas, depending on what you want to call him. But, well, here's what we're seeing. We're seeing that not fully come to fruition. Josh Myers was a very, very good center. He was someone highly regarded in free agency. And because of that, because the Jets signed him, it looked like a good depth piece for this team. A guy who could play center and also could move to the guard positions most likely if there was an injury to happen. It was good to get offensive line depth, something the Jets, outside of having Olu, didn't really have the most of last season, and we did see a few injuries happen to that offensive line. We know Elijah Vera-Tucker's dealt with injuries throughout his career, so all this added up and made sense. But now where things stand, we're seeing a full battle to see who's going to be the starting center, and I'll tell you one thing for sure, Matt, if it's not Joe Tippmann, there is going to be a riot at One Jets Drive.
So this Josh Myers signing was a signing early in the offseason free agency period when it just started, where we were signing a lot of under the radar guys that not everyone was looking at. So we started looking at, PFF grades for these guys to determine how good they were. And Josh Myers was a player that, looking at his PFF grades, he seemed too good to be a backup. And it was surprising that he was signing to the New York Jets to be what we thought was going to be a backup. Now, maybe Aaron Glenn, to get him on the contract that he was on, Aaron Glenn and Darren Mougey told him that he would have a shot, or just told him that he was going to be the starter, and we don't know yet. But we got to remember, this is a quality center coming in. This is Justin Fields' center back from his Ohio State days, so he already has some continuity with our new starting quarterback. So that's another thing working in the favor of Josh Myers. We know Joe Tippmann is a good center, but you always want to find the best possible players that you can and leave the door open for the opportunity for someone that you may not expect to be the best player to become the best player. So if Josh Myers is going to outplay Joe Tippmann, he deserves to get the job over Joe Tippmann. And we got to find out who is actually going to be the starter here. We talk about it all the time, and people love to dispute us on this, but we say whenever a new regime comes in, almost no one in the organization is safe. Only the guys on the top contracts or your top stars are safe. Even a second round pick like Joe Tippmann, who has been successful, we are seeing that he is still not safe. We're hearing rumblings that Aaron Glenn and Darren Mougey want to play their own guy in Josh Myers. So many people are fighting us on this, but this is how the NFL always works. When there's a new regime coming in, they want to play their guys and want their guys to be the reason for the team's turnaround.
I think it's insane that this is happening, but I do get it. As you said, the PFF grades show that Josh Myers is a starting center in this NFL. But at the same time, Tippmann's younger. He's been successful with the Jets. But you're right. It doesn't matter to this new regime. They didn't see Joe Tippmann do it. He didn't do this under them. So it doesn't really affect them, or it doesn't matter to them that much. Obviously, there's the thought of, well, Joe Tippmann was a good center. That's nice that we have him. We're going to bring in someone else to compete with him and see what happens. And that's what Aaron Glenn wants. He wants competition within this New York Jets team, with him posting the top speeds and everything. Aaron Glenn wants these guys to compete, because what it leads to is fire. What it leads to is guys pushing themselves as hard as humanly possible. And that's what Aaron Glenn wants. And it's what Darren Mougey wants as well. Because, as we know, Aaron Glenn was hired before Darren Mougey. Remember, for a good amount of time, it looked like Lance Newmark was going to be the GM of the New York Jets. Then at the 25th hour, the man fell off the face of the earth, and Darren Mougey won the job because he won over the guys in the GM process, and Aaron Glenn was one of the people who was a huge fan of Darren Mougey. That's what, according to Zach Rosenblatt, when he did that Reddit Q&A, because the questioning, there was questions about where did Darren Mougey come from? It felt like he just came out of thin air. Mougey was one of 3 people to get a second interview with the Jets, and he really impressed with his plans, with his interviews, with how he carried himself, his poise, and the way he saw the future of the New York Jets. The owners, the president, we saw Glenn, all of them approved of what they saw out of Darren Mougey. It was across the board. There was an agreement there. And Mougey is a GM who echoes Aaron Glenn. And this is Aaron Glenn's show. It's very clear that this whole thing, this is the Aaron Glenn show. It's Glenn's world, and we're living in it. And first of all, I don't mind that at all. I actually like that that's the case, because it's a complete opposite from what was last season, and the Jets need that. And obviously, at any point, owner... Why am I forgetting the owner's name?
Woody Johnson?
Woody Johnson. I love
your favorite guy, your favorite member of the New York Jets?
My favorite member, Woody Johnson, the member, is my favorite.
It's something we're going to pretend like you didn't say.
This is what happens when I go to Montreal for 3 days. Shout out Ben Rodgers for breaking my brain. But look.
Yo,
but look.
Zip it up when you're done, bro.
This is why everyone should love Jets Digest, because we also have fun while we're doing this. And guys, as Connor Hughes mentioned, Justin Fields looks solid in the 7-on-7 portion of practice. There is an undeniable zip on his passes. He had 2 highlights, one to Garrett Wilson and another to Allen Lazard, in the deeper middle portion of the field between a few defenders. Very pretty. The full team period, though, wasn't great. That's nothing against Justin Fields. The Jets endured pretty consistent protection breakdowns. The Jets' defensive scheme was much more active than Robert Saleh and Jeff Ulbricht's. The front 5 had some issues diagnosing and picking it up. The defense sacked Fields on 6 of the 10 dropbacks. Fields completed 3 of the other 4. There were dump-offs to Jeremy Ruckert. That were 2 of them. 1 was a short pass to Garrett Wilson. So that is not a knock on Justin Fields. It's the protection wasn't good. We know Justin Fields struggles when the protection's not great in that. So clearly the defense was blowing up the offensive line a bit. That leads to really this being anyone's game, specifically in regards to the best backup offensive lineman on the team in Josh Myers being able to take Joe Tippmann's spot.
So, yeah, first of all, obviously, 30 quarterbacks, or maybe 28. Most of the quarterbacks in the league are going to suffer when the offensive line is not playing very well. But
absolutely,
we got to stop trying to judge Justin Fields immediately. What we want to see from Justin Fields is improvement. So for the first couple games, or not games, but the first couple times we see him, we need to establish a baseline of where his talents are and where his skills are, so we can see meaningful improvement, and that will dictate whether we're going to sign him long term or not. He's not going to come from where he was last year and just flip a switch in 1 year. That's not going to happen. What we need to see is substantial growth, which is not what he's shown from his time in Chicago or his time in the Pittsburgh Steelers organization. If he's able to do that with the New York Jets, he is going to be getting a longer extension, but we have to chill out and actually give him time to actually improve. We can't rush to judge a player like this off of 1 week of practices.
I agree. I 100% agree. And for me, you're right. Most, if not all, NFL quarterbacks outside of the very, very, very top of it are going to struggle mightily when there's a bad offensive line, and all of them are going to get worse. So, yeah, that's not something to judge Justin Fields on. It's more, well, that's worrisome about an offensive line that's had 4 of the 5 guys are first-round picks that were invested in offensive linemen, and the other one was a second-round pick. So it's something that you do have to consider is like, well, that's problematic. And maybe it's just Aaron Glenn's defense is absolutely cooking. Stephen Wilkes is doing a great job as well. That's a very, very likely scenario. Tanner Engstrand is drawing up the offense. Maybe he wasn't ready for the defense or whatever you want to say. Maybe the offensive line just wasn't having a great day. It also was very, very cold and rainy for a May day, so that definitely wasn't helping anybody out. But again, 50 degrees and raining, Matt, we're going to see that in October and November.
That's what I was going to say. If you remember last year, our home games, every single game was bad weather. I'm not hearing that as an excuse. You brought up a point that I was also worried about. With our investment in this offensive line, that cannot be the storyline that the offensive line is not good enough. Just to quickly correct what you said, 3 of the 5 were first-round picks. Then we had the second-round pick in Tittman and a 4th-round pick in John Simpson, not made by us, of course. But
yes,
3 first-round picks going into tackles and a guard. That is a lot of draft capital. Then a second-round pick. That's a ton of draft capital. If that is not a strength this year, this team will absolutely flop.
100%.
It's that simple. Because they haven't, when you invest that much in your offensive line, and if they're bad, we're pretty much playing with a team that doesn't have first-round picks.
Yeah, we just burned them. That's what that means. So the Jets' offensive line has to be better. And as you said, the bad weather is no excuse. Every single game the Jets played last year, it somehow was like cold and raining. So if it's 50 degrees and raining in May, guess what? That's the weather you're going to be playing in 4 to 5 months anyway. So it does not matter. It doesn't move me at all. Oh, good. We'll be good for the 2 games. It's warm in New York, or New Jersey in the beginning of the season. Mind you, they do have road games at the beginning of the season as well. So it's not like they're walking into New York all the time. I believe 2 of their first 3 games are on the road. By the time you're back, it's going to be, late September? Yeah, you'll get some warm days. It's not guaranteed it's going to be a Sunday, though. Very likely will be cold and raining, like always, for New York Jets home games, because that's the world we live in for some reason. What are you looking at? Schedule?
So I'm looking at the schedule. First 2 games are home. Then we go to warm Florida for 2 games, and then we're inside for week 5. So
week 6, we're in jolly old England.
Yeah. That's actually also inside. So there it is. Weeks 1 through 7 shouldn't be dealing with anything too bad, but so for some reason the Jets, when we go to Miami, we could be evenly matched with Miami or better than them. I feel like we get blown out every time we go down there, and I don't understand why.
No, we do.
I don't understand why at all.
It's absurd. But it doesn't matter. I don't care about weather. I don't want weather to be an excuse for the New York Jets.
No, weather can be an excuse, but the weather from what it just was, I'm not hearing it. If it's if it's actually miserable or like crazy snow, then yeah.
Well, that's different.
But I'm not.
But normal fall weather is not going to count. So, yeah, I agree. The offensive line has to be better. I like that Tittman is getting some competition as well. It's going to be good for him because he's kind of walked into his roles for the most part, just because these Jets teams have suffered on the offensive line.
If Tittman is the guy I would think he is, he's going to win the competition.
100%. So maybe they'll find another way to use Myers as well. Maybe he could be injury protection and play guard. We'll see what happens. But, guys, let us know what you want to see in the comments down below. What do you think of all this? Like this video, subscribe, turn on post notifications. Have a great day. And Matt's wearing a coat.